I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this, honestly. My wife Jessica had always been the kind of woman who knew how to push every button, bitchy, sarcastic, quick with a lie, and always ready to twist any story to make herself look good. We'd been married for 8 years, and for most of that time I thought we had a decent, even good marriage. Not perfect, but I figured that's normal. But the cracks started showing about 6 months ago. Jessica became more irritable, quick to snap over nothing, and she'd disappear for hours at a time. I'd ask where she was and she'd brush me off, say she was working late or out with friends. Honestly, I didn't think too much of it at first. Women can be moody, right? Still, I noticed her phone was glued to her hand more than usual, and she started deleting texts faster than I could catch her glance. Little things, but enough to make me suspicious. Then she started dressing differently around the house, more provocative, more calculated. She'd wear tight tops, short skirts, and make sure I noticed her. She'd flirt with me like she was trying to remind me she was still attractive. But the way she looked at her phone, the secretive way she'd keep it hidden, it was obvious she was hiding something. I'd catch her in small lies about where she was going or who she was with, and the lies started piling up. Sometimes she'd get defensive, call me paranoid, tell me I was imagining things. That only made me more suspicious. One night I decided to follow her. Just a little sneaky peek, I told myself. Maybe I was overreacting. I followed her to a bar downtown, and she was there with a guy I'd never seen before. He looked like a typical douchebag, tall, loud, with a stupid grin plastered on his face. They were sitting close, laughing too easily, touching each other's arms like they'd known each other forever. My stomach clenched. I watched them for a few minutes, trying to tell myself it was nothing, but I knew better. My wife was cheating on me, plain and simple. The next day I confronted her. I waited until she came home late from what she claimed was work. Her eyes tired but smirking in that annoying, bitchy way she always did. I brought up what I saw and she blinked at me like I was crazy. "You're imagining things, Jeff," she snapped. "Maybe you're just paranoid because you're insecure. You always think the worst. Maybe I'm just having fun. You're so boring these days, maybe I need a little excitement." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. How could she be so callous? The way she lied, the way she dismissed everything, made me realize she'd been doing this for longer than I thought. She had no remorse, no shame. Just that bitchy, dismissive attitude, like I was nothing. It hit me hard because I'd trusted her. We had plans, dreams, a life together, and here she was, throwing it all away for some guy she probably barely knew. The betrayal cut deep, but what hurt even more was her complete lack of remorse or even genuine explanation. It was like I was invisible to her now. All I could think was how much I had loved her, and how she turned around and spat in my face. After that confrontation, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying everything, her sneaky looks, the way she lied so effortlessly, her smirks when I pressed her. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and furious all at once. The worst part was knowing she had been hiding this from me for months, maybe longer. I started digging through her things, looking for more evidence, anything that could tell me how deep this rabbit hole went. I found her phone the next morning while she was in the shower. She always left it on the nightstand, thinking I didn't notice. I grabbed it when she was lathering her hair and I started scrolling. Her texts with this guy Chris were everywhere. Flirty, suggestive, sometimes downright explicit. She'd send him pictures and he'd reply with even more graphic messages. There were messages about meeting up, about how they couldn't keep their hands off each other, about how she loved the thrill of sneaking around. My stomach twisted into knots reading her own words, knowing she'd been lying to my face for months. I couldn't believe she had been this reckless, that she had been cheating while pretending everything was fine. My mind raced with anger and heartbreak. I knew I couldn't keep this bottled up. I had to confront her again, but this time I wanted to be prepared. I wanted to know how much she'd lied, how far this had gone. I sat down with her phone, taking screenshots of the messages, saving every piece of evidence I could find. I wasn't going to be blindsided again. That evening I sat her down to show her what I'd found. Her face changed immediately, her bitchy mask slipping for a moment, then snapping back into place. "What the hell is this, Jessica?" I asked, holding up the phone. Her eyes flicked away, but I saw the flicker of guilt. She tried to brush it off, said it was just a stupid mistake, that Chris was a friend, that she didn't mean anything serious. She lied so casually, as if she thought I was stupid enough to buy it. But I was. I saw through her bullshit. I told her I knew about the affair, about the messages, about the nights she'd gone out with him. Her reaction was a mix of denial, anger, and even a bit of that bitchy arrogance, like she thought she could talk her way out of it. She told me I was overreacting, that I was paranoid, that I was insecure. She said, "Jeff, you're making a big deal out of nothing. Maybe I need a little fun. Maybe I'm just tired of your boring ass." That comment hit me hard, her dismissiveness, her cruelty. It was like she was trying to tear me down even more. I was numb, feeling all the pain, all the betrayal, but also that fire inside me. I was furious, but I also knew that I couldn't just pretend this hadn't happened. I had to decide what to do, whether to fight for her or cut her loose. The trust was broken, and honestly, I wasn't sure I could ever get past it. I felt completely lost after that. My mind kept circling around what this meant for us, for my own sanity. I'd never imagined my life would come to this point, standing there, realizing the woman I loved, the woman I thought was my partner, had been betraying me so openly. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I'd been so blind to her lies, to her manipulations. It's a sinking feeling, knowing someone you trusted so deeply doesn't care about your feelings at all. And the worst part, I knew. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. The days that followed were a blur. I couldn't focus on work, couldn't sleep, and kept replaying everything in my head. Every time I saw her, the anger bubbled up again. Jessica, of course, was still bitchy, still dismissive, and refused to fully admit to what she'd done. She acted like she was the victim, like I was the one overreacting. Typical Jessica, blame shifting, lying her ass off, trying to spin her way out of the mess she created. I knew I had to do something more than just confront her. I needed a plan. I started thinking about how to get proof, how to finally catch her in the act if she was still sneaking around. I began installing some basic hidden cameras around the house. I wasn't proud of it, but I needed to see exactly what she was up to when I wasn't looking. The thing was, I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I realized I'd been blind for a long time, trying to hold onto a relationship that was already dead in the water. Jessica was still acting like she had the upper hand. She throw tantrums, say I was crazy for even suspecting her, and then sulk when I didn't immediately forgive her. I could tell she thought she was bulletproof, that I'd never really leave her or expose her. But I wasn't that naive anymore. I had enough evidence now, screenshots, her lies, her secret nights out, and I knew that I had to consider my options. One night, just to be sure, I decided to follow her again. This time, I parked around the corner from her favorite bar and watched her leave with Chris. They didn't just sit and flirt, they kissed in the parking lot. When she got in his car, I saw enough to confirm what I already knew. This wasn't just a fling, it was real and it was serious. They were planning something. That was the final straw for me. I couldn't stay in a marriage where I was constantly second-guessing, constantly feeling like a fool. The next morning, Jessica was her usual bitchy self, trying to gaslight me again, saying I was paranoid. I was done playing her game. I told her I knew everything, about the texts, the nights out, the kiss in the parking lot. Her eyes widened for a split second, and then she started lying even more, saying I was stalking her, that Chris was just a friend, that I was making everything up because I was desperate for attention. That was when I realized I couldn't trust her anymore, not even a little. She was so good at lying, so skilled at twisting the truth, that I knew I had to take a hard stand. I told her I was done, that I was leaving if she didn't come clean. She scoffed, called me crazy, and told me I was overreacting. But I was. I felt the weight of betrayal crushing me, and I knew I couldn't pretend everything was okay any longer. The emotional toll was brutal. I'd loved her, trusted her, and now I was forced to see the real Jessica, selfish, manipulative, and completely indifferent to what she'd done to me. I felt like I was drowning in disappointment and rage all at once. I kept asking myself why I ever thought I could save this marriage, why I was foolish enough to believe she cared. But deep down, I knew I'd hit the point of no return. There was no fixing this, not. After what I'd seen and what she'd admitted, well, sort of. She still insisted she was innocent, that I was just imagining things. But the evidence was there, clear as day, and I wasn't going to ignore it. I knew I had a choice: confront her again, try to work through it, or just cut my losses and walk away. Honestly, I was leaning toward walking. I had nothing left to salvage. All I felt was a mixture of heartbreak and relief. Relief that I finally saw her true face, heartbreak because I'd loved her for so long. But I knew one thing for sure: I'd never trust her again, and I'd never let her manipulate me into thinking I was the crazy one. That betrayal changed everything. I didn't make the decision overnight. Honestly, I spent days going back and forth, feeling like I was stuck in some horrible nightmare I couldn't wake up from. My mind kept racing. Should I fight for her, try to save this marriage? Or should I cut her loose and move on? The truth was, every time I thought about forgiving her, I saw her bitchy smirk, her dismissive attitude, the way she lied so effortlessly. I felt so betrayed, so stupid for ever trusting her, that I knew deep down there was no coming back from this. But I also felt a strange sense of clarity. It's like once I saw the truth, I couldn't unsee it. The Jessica I thought I married was gone, replaced by this selfish, manipulative version who only cared about herself and her new toy, Chris. That realization was bitter but also freeing. I finally understood that I deserved better, something real, something honest. That didn't mean I was ready to jump into another relationship right away, but it did mean I finally saw the reality for what it was. I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. So I started planning my next moves. I knew I had enough proof now: screenshots, her secret nights out, the kiss in the parking lot. I wanted to be sure she couldn't deny it. I began collecting everything, just in case I needed to show someone or take legal action. I even started packing some of my things in secret, knowing I couldn't stay in a house where I felt so betrayed and hurt. I was furious at myself for trusting her for so long. But mostly, I was furious at her for treating me like I was nothing, like I was just some fool she could lie to. One night, I finally sat her down for what I knew would be the last serious talk. I told her I had enough, enough of her lies, her manipulations, her bullshit. I told her I knew about Chris, about the nights she'd gone out, about the texts and the kissing. I told her I couldn't keep pretending I didn't see who she really was. Her reaction was classic Jessica: shrill, defensive, and full of bullshit. She called me crazy, said I was paranoid, that she never did anything wrong. She accused me of spying on her, of invading her privacy. She even had the nerve to say I was insecure and jealous. I just looked at her and said, "Jessica, you're a liar. I've seen the messages, the secret nights. I'm done. I want a divorce." Her face twisted like I just told her her favorite pet had died. She started crying, yelling about how I was ruining everything, how she loved me but I was just too stupid to see how much she hated me all along, that she was only trying to find herself, that I was just too dull and boring to keep her interested. Honestly, I didn't care what she said anymore. The truth was out. I felt a mix of relief and despair. Relief because I finally knew the truth, despair because I knew my life would never be the same. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, was gone, and I was left with the mess she left behind. I told her I was leaving, and I did. I packed my bags that night and drove away from that house, knowing I was walking into the unknown but finally free from the lie. It's strange how the mind works. I expected anger, sadness, maybe even revenge, but mostly I just felt exhausted, like I'd been fighting a battle I couldn't win from the start. I'd been so blind, so trusting, and it all turned to shit. The worst part, knowing that her lies had probably been going on for years and I had only just caught on. That I'd been played, used, and discarded like yesterday's trash. And yet, part of me also felt a strange sense of relief. For the first time in a long time, I could breathe. I could start over, even if that meant rebuilding myself from scratch. The days after I left that house were the hardest of my life. I felt like I'd lost everything: my wife, my sense of security, my trust in what I thought was a normal life. I stayed with my sister for a while, just trying to breathe, trying to process what had happened. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her bitchy smirk, her dismissive attitude, and the way she looked at her phone like it was her lifeline. It was a constant reminder that I'd been so blind for so long. But amidst the pain, I also started to get clarity. For the first time in years, I could see my life without her manipulations clouding everything. I realized I'd spent so much time trying to fix her, to make her love me again, that I forgot about myself. I'd lost my confidence, my sense of worth, because I kept convincing myself she was the one who was hurting, when in fact, I was the one who'd been betrayed and manipulated. I knew I had to do something. Help myself heal. I started going to therapy, talking through everything, my feelings, my anger, my sadness. It helped to get it all out loud, to understand that I wasn't crazy for feeling this way. It also helped me see that I deserved someone who wouldn't lie, cheat, or treat me like I was disposable. That realization hit hard, but it was also empowering. For the first time, I felt like I was reclaiming my life. In the midst of all this, I also decided to cut ties with her completely. No more calls, no more texts. I blocked her on social media, deleted her number, and even changed my email. I couldn't handle any more of her manipulative lies or her bitchy comments. I just wanted to focus on myself for a while. Honestly, I felt a mix of relief and sadness. Relief that I didn't have to deal with her anymore, and sadness for what we lost. But I knew that staying in that toxic cycle would only ruin me further. One thing I didn't expect was how quickly I started to rebuild my confidence. I began working out, reconnecting with friends, and even exploring hobbies I'd abandoned. Slowly, but surely, I started feeling like myself again. I realized I'd been so busy trying to please her, trying to make her happy, that I'd forgotten what I wanted for myself. Now, I was learning to prioritize my own happiness and boundaries. It was like waking up from a terrible nightmare, and I wasn't going to let her drag me back into that darkness. Looking back, I see how much I've grown from this experience. It hurt like hell, but it also opened my eyes to who I really am, someone who deserves honesty, respect, and love. I can't say I'm completely healed yet, but I'm getting there. What I will never forget is how her betrayal changed me, but also how I found the strength to walk away and start over. If there's one thing I want other guys to learn from this, it's that you don't have to tolerate being lied to or disrespected. Your worth isn't determined by someone who treats you like trash. Stand up for yourself even if it hurts, because in the end, the only person who can truly save you is yourself. Do you want me to keep going with the final part? Now, sitting here reflecting on everything, I realize how much this whole ordeal has changed me. It's not just about the betrayal, the lies, or even the anger. It's about what I've learned about myself in the process. I used to think I was some kind of fool for trusting her so blindly. But now I see I was just a guy who loved someone who didn't deserve it. And that's okay. That's part of life, learning the hard way sometimes, but coming out stronger. I've learned that people like Jessica, bitchy, manipulative, and dismissive, aren't worth my time or energy. She showed her true colors early on and I just refused to see them. But I see now and I won't be blind again. I realize I deserve someone who values honesty, loyalty, and respect. And I believe I'll find that someday, maybe when I least expect it. I'm not rushing into anything. I'm just focusing on rebuilding my life piece by piece, one day at a time. Most importantly, I've learned to trust myself. My gut instincts, my feelings, they matter. If something doesn't sit right, I'll listen to that voice now. I won't ignore the signs anymore, because ignoring them only leads to heartbreak, frustration, and worse, losing yourself in the process. That's what this whole journey has taught me. Never settle for less than what you deserve, and never let someone else make you feel small or worthless. So yeah, I still feel the pain, the betrayal, the anger. But I also feel hope. Hope that I can move past this, that I can find happiness again on my own terms. It's going to take time, and I know there will be days when the hurt feels fresh. But I also know I don't have to carry that weight forever. I've made my choice. No more lies, no more manipulations, and definitely no more Jessica. I'm done being a victim. From now on, I'm just going to focus on healing, learning, and making sure I never let anyone do this to me again. If I could give advice to someone out there who's going through something similar, it's this. Don't be afraid to face the truth, even if it hurts like hell, because only when you face it can you truly start to heal. Trust your instincts, stand your ground, and never let anyone treat you like you're disposable. You're worth more than that. It's not easy, but it's worth it. I know I'll be okay now, and I hope that anyone reading this who's in a similar boat finds the strength to walk away and rebuild their life. Because nobody deserves to be lied to, cheated on, or disrespected. Not ever.